afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Vertical Engagement series that will be dealing with 3 fantastic thesis presentations from last year. Now, a few months ago, Megan Varu, a former Somina president, approached me to see if I would be keen to say a word or two in regards to research in architecture. Now, there is much to be said about it, including an urgent need for architecture to establish itself as a widely recognized leader in various fields of research, from sustainability, urban development and technology, to critical inquiry, among many others, in order to add to the discussion, solve the problems and better the world that we live in. Now, don't worry, I will not be talking about these today. If I were to, we'll be here probably all day long. What I will do instead is introduce you to the 3 amazing individuals who recently completed their final year dissertation projects here at Curtin, and I will let them do the job for me. So the 3 students we will have opportunity to listen to today are Christopher Mewburn, Rhys Curry, and Ian Bicknell. They will introduce you to the wide possibilities that research in architecture can offer by discussing briefly their thesis projects, and I will introduce them, starting with our first presenter, Christopher Mewburn. Christopher loved his time at Curtin, I'm quoting this, as a student, tutor, and CASA president in 2013. He believes that passion, dedication, and a genuine sense of curiosity is essential in architectural school, and that hard work and ambition will reap great rewards for any student. Christopher was awarded on several occasions for his work, including winning Woods and Bagot Prize, Buchan Group Prize, and the International Wise Commonwealth Association of Architects Students Competition. He's currently tutoring first-year architecture students in design and methods while furthering his his research. His thesis is inspired by 2 particular projects, the Pantheon in Rome and James Turrell's Aten Rain at the Guggenheim Museum in New York, whose deeply moving presence have marked Christopher's memory forever as places of absolute astonishment. His dissertation explores astonishment in architecture, seeking to better understand the field and, through the process of design research, create an approximation to it. So please welcome Christopher Mewburn.
Thanks very much, Tanya. That's very loud, is it? Okay. All right, so can everybody hear me? Should I turn the microphone down a bit, or is it okay? As is? Okay, cool. So I've given this presentation a couple of times before, and it usually is somewhere between 15 minutes and an hour. So today I'm going to try and keep it to 20, but you'll forgive me if I skip a few slides and run over a few things. Is that okay with everyone? Awesome, let's get started. So, go away, little mouse. Does anyone know how to get rid of that? That'll go away. Okay. So, it says good morning everyone, but I think this is an old speech. So, good afternoon everyone. The title of this dissertation is Astonishment in Architecture, Interrogating the Ineffable, the Sublime and the Cosmos Through Immersive Technology. And I'm Christopher Mewburn. The grounding in this dissertation begins with 2 extraordinary experiences in architecture, the Pantheon in Rome and James Turrell's Aten Rain at the Guggenheim. Words cannot describe what was felt in these spaces. Both inspired silent, breathtaking awe, and both were truly astonishing. Edmund Burke claimed that astonishment is the absolute height of human emotion. This is my realm of inquiry, as this dissertation seeks to better understand astonishment in architecture. So we start with the philosophical grounding. How do I get rid of you? Go away. Yes. So at the beginning of this research, a collective of spatial practitioners were chosen whose work and philosophical musings resonated most with the field of extraordinary presence. A photo book was created for Louis Kahn, Peter Zumthor, Le Corbusier, Santiago Calatrava, and James Turrell, studying their influences, their writings, and their greatest works. Each practitioner coined their own term for this grand presence in architecture. For Kahn, it was the unmeasurable. For Zumthor, atmosphere. Oh, sorry, go ahead. For Zumthor, atmosphere. For Corbusier, the ineffable. For Turrell, the material immaterial. And for Johanni Plasma, the sacred. The experience of this grand sensation in architecture is truly inexplicable and cannot be put into words. As this most resonates with Le Corbusier's term, the ineffable, this term is used for the realm of the extraordinary architecture throughout this dissertation. Analysis of the study practitioners reveals common threads to extraordinary presence. These are elicited as tangible parameters of the ineffable: light, order, and material. Further analysis of the books identifies three modes of experience in great space. Looking up, which both the Pantheon and Aten categorize within, is an experience of looking up to the ceiling, to the heavens, or the cosmos. Looking in, a closed-off, sensual experience carving mesmerizing connection between human and architecture, for example, Peter Zumthor's Thermivals, and looking out, which connects an inhabitant to the infinite horizon, framing the boundless cosmos beyond, for example, Cahn's Salk Institute and Corbusier's La Tourette cells. Looking up was further explored in a research trip to Canberra when I went to visit James Turrell's Sky Space there, and there were some more works done, but I'll have to skip over those for time. So, photo books and my own personal influences were then made questioning where extraordinary presence is evident in my own experience. Architecture and nature resonated most deeply with me. Both architecture and nature then ground in philosophy. Architecture, the ineffable, as discussed before, and nature, the sublime. These philosophies ground the experience most impactful to me. Further dissection of these philosophies brings me to a line of inquiry in the realm of astonishment in architecture. So Edmund Burke in 1757 claims that the emotional reaction to the sublime is astonishment, and that it peaks in nature. When, therefore, does unnatural space like the Pantheon or Aten Rhein become astonishing? In nature, Immanuel Kant proposes that the sublime is caused by an encounter with extremity, things of great measure or beyond our comprehension. And Johanni Palaima suggests that nature is evocative to us because it is inexplicably beyond our measure, and that sensation ultimately connects our mind to the Creator, or the idea of God, or some higher power. If then we combine these thoughts, astonishment, the emotional reaction to the sublime, through the experience of natural phenomena, is caused by the inexplicable origin and creation that brings upon the sensation a higher power. Or in short, astonishment is the emotional reaction to the sensation of God and is found in the presence of things whose creation or physical parameters are beyond our measure. So when does it happen in unnatural space then? This dissertation argues that it is in exactly the same way. Astonishment is your emotional reaction to the sensation of God and is found in the presence of things whose creation or physical parameters are beyond our measure. This resonates with the experience of the Pantheon and Aten Rhein as both exude an inexplicable presence, at Oculus looking up to infinity, and through their looking up mode of experience draw focus up to the heavens and the cosmos, and both suffused a profanely sacred aura. The tangible parameters of the ineffable were elicited as light, order, and material, while Edmund Burke suggests that terror, infinity, vastness, obscurity, magnificence, light, and colour are the tangibles of the sublime. If we then look at Palaima, the sacred experience of great architecture, which is proposed to underpin astonishment, may arise from an exceptional sense of place, purity of form, intense materiality or colour, or transcendent illumination. These are Palaisma's tangibles for the sacred aura in architecture, and they correspond directly to the tangibles light, order, and material of the ineffable, and the infinity and obscurity of the sublime. It is therefore at the intersection of the ineffable and sublime that the sacred presence may arise, and at this very point that astonishment in architecture may occur. Interrogating this intersection, the tangible parameters of the ineffable and sublime will therefore bring a closer understanding of architectural astonishment. So this is where it gets interesting. We start to look at these 5 elicited tangibles of the ineffable and sublime, light, order, and material, infinity, and obscurity. So before we move into the interrogations and how it works, I expand on my position on astonishment. Achieving astonishment is not the aim for this dissertation, and it is not expected that the theoretical logic of this research will become a ruling formula. A method will be designed, however, that interrogates the elicited tangibles whilst combining an architecture that approaches the extraordinary, and in turn will deepen my understanding of astonishment. So this is a summarised version of the design brief. Interrogate the elicited tangibles through the design of a mixed-use tower in New York. New York is chosen for its connection to me, plus other references back to astonishment. So the design prioritises 3 modes of experience: looking up as a foyer at the ground, looking in as a pool at the centre, and looking out as a meeting place for 50 people at the tower peak. It's important to note that the facades, the residential and the offices are all just massing studies only. So the methodology for the design consists of 5 components that I'll briefly discuss. First, we identify the sensation or the atmosphere desired within one of the 3 modes of experience. Then we interrogate the elicited tangibles of astonishment by constructing some sort of spatial composition. Then we experience this composition immersively at the dome in the hive, which is around the corner. I'll show you in a second. Then we record the compositions and observations and reflections in a digital manuscript app that I designed. And then we repeat this process time and time again until we feel like it's starting to get somewhere architecturally. And then finally, once we have a set of findings or rules, we compose a final design film of the New York Tower that shows the experience of the space, further dissects the elicited tangibles, and demonstrates the collected body of knowledge in the field of architectural astonishment. So to illustrate the design process of the key moments, I'll give a demonstration, or I did give a demonstration of what was happening. So essentially, because we can't go through the dome today in the hive, because it was occupied, the next 2 images just show you what was going on. So essentially the process would be that I would design an architecture, and then using this 180 hemispherical dome, I was able to stand inside the spaces that I'd designed and look around in full experience of the space. So another image of that is here. I allow myself to stand inside the architecture that I design sort of in real time, make decisions and reflections on what is happening based on the elicited tangibles and the philosophy I studied, and then that informs the next piece of architecture that I design. So it's an iterative process that slowly builds upon itself. And how I was able to control that, if I go back to the microphone, was by designing an app that held everything that I designed in one place. So essentially what it had was every iteration that I'd done throughout the process was kept in here, every reflection and every conclusion, and then in real time I would be able to navigate back through these spaces as though I was in the hive and experience them again. And what that really enabled for me was to have the entire body of research available to me at all times. So it wasn't a matter of, I've finished with this experiment, I'm going to move on to this one now, and that old one is not relevant anymore. It was a matter of, okay, something happened at experiment number 14 and something else happened at experiment number 252, and I can bring those together at any given point in time. And so having that app with me at all times allowed my mind to constantly be able to reflect on things and build forwards. So enough of that. So yeah, I'll try and rush through the next part because I'm sure I'm running out of time. There were these 6 set of interrogations that I did, but each paid homage and reference back to what was happening with the architects. So the first series paid attention to the pure geometries and immense scale, referring to Louis Kahn. The ocular series referred to visiting within without James Turrell Space in Canberra. Ring of Sky and Oculus combined referred to the intense coloration of Aten Rain. And then using this bright light juxtaposed with deep shadow in the final foyer was referenced back to Caravaggio and these Italian artists, where this sense of blackness of ink really gave drama and ritual and beauty to these spaces. Then looking at Turkish ritual and the experience of bathing. And then finally focusing on Le Corbusier and Louis Kahn and this sense of field of view and framing a perfect moment. And this continued throughout the film process. So if we look at Caspar David Friedrich's Wander Above a Sea of Fog, and then in the final film experience how that person is standing there. So there's these constant connections back from the philosophy that I engaged with, and then back into my design. So it wasn't that I was being completely selfish and engaging in only what I wanted to see, but also engaging with those things that I had read or understood already. So the final film conveys the design of the New York Tower in a way that gives the viewer a glimpse into the iterative process of composing the foyer, pool and meeting space for 50 people while also forming an experience. As we watch, the tower slowly builds itself by further exploring the tangibles through layering in some of the stronger tests of the manuscript and design process. So we'll go through the film now. skip the credits if you don't mind. How much time have we got left? About none? Okay, I'll just wrap up. So, this dissertation investigated the point of astonishment in architecture by establishing and interrogating the tangible parameters and the philosophies of the built work believed to underpin the field. The combination of light, order, material, infinity and obscurity which arises at the intersection of the ineffable and sublime may create a sacred or spiritual experience and therefore has the potential to cause astonishment. These parameters were explored through the slow and iterative design of a mixed-use New York tower by using film and immersive technologies to create three spaces: a foyer looking up, a pool looking in, and a meeting space looking out. The research identified the strengths and shortfalls of the tangible parameters which fail without restraint or in conflict and find the greatest strength in achieving grand experience when working harmoniously to construct a singular, pure, and powerful presence grounded in ancient ritual. The final design supports the power of sacred experience in the realm of architectural astonishment, as the composition generates a presence that is beyond the ordinary by expanding on the elicited tangibles of sacred space. Astonishment in architecture was not found or intended to be found in this dissertation. However, the experience of the three rooms aligned somewhere close, a realm that shall be termed the architectural wondrous. These spaces suffusing intriguing qualities that create an extraordinary cross-section between delightful wonder and sacred ritual. While astonishment in architecture was not established, this body of work affirms that there is great presence in architecture where sacred connection is explored through the intersection of the tangible parameters of the ineffable and the sublime. This is a rich territory for discovery, and astonishment in architecture may yet be found here. Thank you.